do you check out Goodreads or like, what are some of your go-to sources of recommendations?
That is a good question. I I do use Goodreads quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know at the beginning too, and I love when authors, like I look at authors' Goodread pages and what they read and recommend. So I look at sort of my favorite authors and then what do they like? So let me check them out. And that would lead me to new authors. So that was always a fun sort of pathway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now it's sort of just from names that I keep hearing and repeating. And so then if their new book comes out and the story seems compelling, and if they're on Kindle Unlimited, that's such an easy gateway to try somebody new.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll snag it. But I think Goodreads is usually a good start for me.
That's
How
fair.
about you? Yeah.
I get them from random places. BookTube is definitely helpful. Every
Mhm.
so often, I get them from because I interview authors most of the time. So I hear from the authors and mention books, and sometimes they mention like specifically if I ask the authors like romance recommendations, they'll give me some of them. And like I found like a hidden gem. My latest hidden gem was Diana Quincy and Nisha Sharma both mentioned Mola Finelli's Mafia Romance. She only has
Mm.
2 books out. So good. I remember I was editing the podcast. I was looking at book slum and I was like, oh, let me just read that. And I was like, I could not stop reading this book.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of like fun, but I think listening to the show, like, or because I have to edit the show and talk to the authors, if I hear the recommendation multiple times and I'm like, oh, let me just pick it out. I also
Mhm.
have like a ongoing wish list on Kindle Unlimited, like a one of the Amazon wish list with Kindle Unlimited titles. And so I actually just like save titles if I hear them. And sometimes I go back to the wish list and I'm like, oh, this which one looks good? Because I always have
Yeah.
20 books borrow. And
Yeah.
then there are other times it's like depends on the mood, like what mood strikes, like, you know.
Mhm. And I also like find new authors where like I have a post on all these like legit places where you can get free books, right? Whether you sign up for BookBub or other places like that. So I mean, my Kindle is overflowing with so many books, right? So that's also just a place that I'll just be like, oh, that book sounds kind of cool. I'll grab it. It's free. And then I'll go back and be like, I'll check this person out. So um, that's sort of a helpful gateway too. I'm like, oh, free book, sure, I'll check it out.
Yeah, yeah, I got better from free books because I used to get them so much. And then I was like, I'm
Mhm.
never reading them. Like, I'm never gonna go. It's just the
Yeah.
same thing with me in arcs. I get pretty much every arc that I want. And it's like it's a privilege. I understand, it is a privilege. And at the same time, like I sometimes I'm like, I just need like a break from it. And so I try to like look for like I miss the days where I was like, I look at Amazon and said like I'm looking for so and so, and then the algorithm will give me like what I need, you know.
Yeah.
And like
Nice.
other people has bought out this book, and you're like, oh, I've seen this cover multiple times. Like, oh, maybe
Yes.
I'll pick that one out, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Exactly.
so
And I find like a lot of indie authors, well, not a lot, but a couple have sort of started their own like publishing
yeah.
pieces. So I think that's helped me too. Like Penny Reed is one of them. She started Smarty Pants Romance. So
Mm,
um, two authors that I've found from them, though I want them to write more because I've loved their book.
yeah.
Like Chelsea Edwards with Upsy Daisy. Oh my gosh, loved that book. And there's so many great characters in it. So I'm like, when are you writing that? When are you writing more? When are you writing more? Because I will eat that up. And Hope Ellis is another one with Been There, Done That. It's sort of her billionaire second chance romance book. So finding new authors that way was kind of cool because I'm like, all right, if Penny Reed thinks these people can write, then I'll check them out. And Serena Bowen is the same with her publishing group, right? So
Yeah.
the Moo You series is one of them. And I read Blindsided by Victoria Denault.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that book. It was an enemies to lovers, like college book, kind of similar to like a Romeo and Juliet without their ending, like feuding families. And so after I read that one, I'm like, all right, I'm going to check out more of her stuff. And so I sort of read one or two of her other books. So I guess that goes back to favorite authors and their recommendations. So
Yeah, I think it's like it's a hidden gem trying to find like recommendations like to be like, oh, like this one sounds good, or this like
Mhm.
or these books are like being published. There was a challenge that I wanted to do and I may do it at some point is to look at, my Kindle. I do have ads in my Kindle and to read the books that my ads are popping up, like which ones,
Oh,
like, to see like are they good or they're not good? Like is
right, right.
the algorithm telling me what I'm supposed to be reading,
Mhm.
I think like I'm always curious and be like, okay, is it worth reading? Is it worth my time or not?
Right. And this would be a whole nother conversation too, but that kind of brings into play too, like how I am realize a visual person, and I do judge a book by its cover, a lot of the time, right? Which, really, what does a cover really mean? But that does play into like, do I want to read this book even though I don't know this person, or not, which is, crazy, but yeah.
So speaking of covers, there's a lot of conversation about like now because of book talk, people are asking for discrete covers or
Mhm.
alternate covers. What are your thoughts around that? Like, are you okay? Like, personally, I don't buy the books. I only buy Kindle. I only read Kindle. Like, it's not. I'm not the target audience for it. But I'm like, I'm like, really? Do we need to call it discrete? Like, like.
Yeah, I have sort of mixed feelings too. Well, one, I'm always on my Kindle too, so it doesn't really affect me that much. And I wrote a post, this was probably 2 years ago, about the trend going towards more graphic
Mhm.
um, covers versus the male model or, human model cover. And I kind of really balked at that trend because that made me feel like that book should be more chick lit. And so that was sort of blurring the line because I didn't want to read just women's chick lit. I wanted to know I was reading a romance book, and there's been a couple of times where I'm like, this book is not what I thought it was based on the book blurb.
Mhm.
So this whole idea of, yeah, more clean or whatever you call them, book covers, I'm kind of like, who are we well, ultimately, why? Because are you embarrassed? Like, well, why should you be embarrassed? Like, it goes back to like, own it. There are so many, dollars being made in this industry. And why did 50 Shades become so huge? Because we love it, So um, I don't know. I maybe if you're taking it to work and you don't want to walk in, I mean, but stuff it in your
Yeah,
bag. Like,
Kindle.
I mean, yeah, get a Kindle. Like, I don't know. I think that's putting a lot of pressure, one, maybe on authors, and two, I think it's blurring, like, for people to know what are you going to read, So
Mhm.
I don't know. That would for me, like a weird, a nondescript cover, you know, wouldn't really tell me what if I'm reading a romance or not.
Yeah, I
Personally.
think that's like an issue. I'm like, it's the whole point is like I feel like it's patriarchy,
Yes, exactly.
like
That is exactly
patriarchy.
my point.
Like
Yeah.
I feel ashamed that I have a clinch cover
Yes.
and I'm not like and there's a couple and blah blah blah. It's the same with
Right.
illustrated covers. Illustrated covers came out because people were YA readers were starting to read romance, and so they were like they in order for them to buy into the books, they were like, we'll give them trade paperbacks and we'll give you illustrated covers. We'll give you like cutesy rom-coms and we're gonna sell
Right.
everything rom-com, which
Right.
it's not the case. And
Right.
so now we have book talk saying like we want discrete covers, we'll buy the book and we want discrete covers. And because book talks are buying the books, people are like, okay, I guess we have to give you discrete covers. But I'm like,
Yes.
really?
Well, and one of my other indie authors I love, Amy Dawes. I don't know if you've read any of her
Yeah.
books. But yeah, she just came out with her email being like, here are my new discrete covers. And I'm like, what? Yours weren't even like that crazy. I mean, sort of like a dirty chest on a soccer player, but like, come on. Now I'm staring at a soccer goal with a soccer ball.
Yeah, she posted a TikTok about it. She's like, there was a comment, she's like, hey, can you do discrete coverage? She's like, of course I will. And I'm just like, really? Really,
I
TikTok?
know.
first of all,
I know.
I don't trust TikTok a lot of times because I'm like, they're what they think is spicy, it's not spicy. What they think it's like romance, it's not romance. And what they think it's like, taboo, it's can be considered rape, like there
Right.
there
Right.
there like there are a lot of things I'm like, like 2022 sensitivities are not being taken care of. So
So true. Yes. Yes. No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, that seems like outside, like you said, patriarchal influences that are changing that. And I'm like, no, that's BS. Like,
yeah,
come on.
yeah. We've been doing this for so long. Like seriously.
Yes,
Yeah.
give me my good covers. And yeah, I have a whole list on my website. You can check them out of sexy book covers, ones that I think I'm like, I love these.
Yeah.
I have book covers of couples and of course the male models and just, all this stuff. And I'm like, these are my favorites. So
Yes, and we have moved away from the time of Fabio, so it's like
Mhm.
we're in a different space. We're no longer in Fabio stands. So yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, let's see. Tell us where you can find you online. Tell us all about the blog.
The blog is She Reads Romance Books. Would love to have everybody check it out for great book lists, book reviews, my romance book reading challenge, and the reading journal, and some fun book quizzes. So lots of things to enjoy and check out, whether you're a newbie reader, and new to indie authors, or people who have been loving romance for years and just looking for some new great titles. So I hope people find the best books worth reading and the best book boyfriends to collect. So,
I love this. Thank you, Leslie, for being on the show.
oh, it's always so fun to be here. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. Today's episode's partner is Libra FM. If you're an audiobook listener, then you should add Libra FM as your go-to source for paid audiobooks. Libra FM makes it possible for you to buy audiobooks through your local bookstore. Memberships start at $14.95, and they also have great sales for romance audiobooks each month for $3.99, thanks to the Kiss Club. To sign up for Libra FM, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com/LibraFM. You will receive a free audiobook when you sign up for a monthly subscription. If you purchase a subscription through our link, you will be supporting the podcast at no cost to you. The What to Read Next podcast is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Please visit frolic.media/podcast to discover new shows to tune in. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.